So welcome, Karen and Rob. Thanks.
Thanks, Penny.
Great to have you on board. Now, before we do get started, I am going to go through very quickly the housekeeping for everybody. You have been told, we had on the screen there before, and I think as you join, you get told by GoToWebinar that you are actually in listen-only mode. That does not mean you cannot participate, and we'd really love you to. And we're actually going to make you at 2 points throughout the webinar. We were going to ask you nicely to join us in polls. So when the polls come up, please do put forward your answers to those polls, because they really help us understand that we've got onto the right track with what we're presenting with for you today. The other way is that you'll notice over on the right-hand side there is a little panel within the GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side, sorry, panel twice there, but the ability for you to actually chat or ask questions. So please at any time enter those in. We'll do our best to attend to all of those questions throughout today's webinar. However, should we not get to your question, please, it is not because we don't want to answer it or anything along those lines. It will be a time constraint for us. And if that is the case, we will take it offline for you and make sure that we get an answer to you post today's webinar. And the last thing is, yes, we are recording today. So if you do need to leave early or anything like that, please, that's not a problem at all. We will be recording. And within 2 business days of today's webinar, you'll receive a follow-up email from us thanking you for your attendance with a link to that recording. And please feel free to share that recording with your peers or anyone else in your network that you feel could receive benefit from that. So that's enough of the housekeeping and Penny having a chat there. So let's get into today's subject, connecting with talent on their terms, increasing a direct hire ratio. So when I talked with Karen and Rob about this, this absolutely blew me away. So I'm looking forward to us having a bit of a discussion around this, and I'm sure a lot of people on the line, that's exactly what they're here looking for. And also about that creating applicant engagement from the first click. And I'm sure that then, Rob, moves into the component of being an employee as well. So
absolutely
making that happen. So just before we do start, I do have a couple of little bits of research that I thought people would like to see. So the first thing is that we know that there's over 6.8 billion mobile phones in the world, that the average person spends 90 minutes per day on their mobile phone. So that's 23 days of our year we're spending on our mobile phone. Calling someone, actually, though, is the 6th most common function used on your mobile phone. So the most common, which is 24%, is actually browsing the web. And then it's closely followed by time spent on apps and other high usages of things like your social media and gaming and such. And then we also have the fact that now there's 57% of people are saying they don't actually even use an alarm clock because their mobile phone does that, and 50% no longer wear a watch. So you can see why we're talking a little bit about mobile in today's webinar and why we're actually moving to that space. And then you have people like Deloitte that are actually telling us from an organisational perspective that 39% of companies are now leveraging things like social data and the social media to recruit and engage and understand employment brands. So they're seeing how important it is to be in that mobile and social space. And PageUp ourselves, we've recently done some research in the mobile space, in particular in the Australian market, and we've recognised that companies that execute well on their mobile strategy are more likely to build that strong employer brand and actually be able to reach out to those passive candidates. We've actually found that globally 58% of companies find it difficult to really do source that high quality candidate. So being mobile really will provide a competitive advantage. And today you will see how the team here at Linfox have actually taken quite a bold step into this space. Just a couple of last little statistics there. We actually, in doing our research, looked at the top 100 brands in Australia and the mobile optimisation of their career sites. So actually you can see there that not a great level of people are actually thinking about where their talent is actually lying and where they're actually spending a lot of their time. So we've got there that nearly 3/4 of Australia's largest 100 organisations do not have mobile optimised sites. And when it comes to the actual application form, so if you actually think then about grabbing those applicants and enabling them to connect with you, again, we've got large percentages there. So there's 45% will let you, but editing is required. There's 32% there, so there's no pre-fill capability whatsoever. So that means I actually have to do everything myself. So if I'm on a mobile phone or even a mobile device being a tablet, there's potentially no way I'm going to actually get through my application. And some 23% don't even allow you to even try it from a mobile device. So that's a great introduction, I think, into the Linfox journey and where you've come from. But before we do get into that, Karen, can you tell us a little bit about Linfox?
Yeah, of course, Penny. Linfox is Australia's largest privately owned logistics company. We operate in 10 countries and we've got over 23,000 employees. The last few years have seen us rapidly expand in Asia and New Zealand as well. For those that don't know, Linfox is owned by an iconic Australian family, the Fox family. But interestingly, more than 2/3 of our team are actually based in our Asian countries.
Wow.
The other great thing is wherever we operate in the world, we share a common vision, and that's to deliver service excellence and adaptable supply chain solutions across the Asia-Pacific region.
That's amazing. I didn't really realise that you were so vastly into the Asian market already.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? The other thing that people don't know about Linfox is that we're made up of a number of other businesses, including airports, property, and interestingly, Armaguard. We belong to Linfox Logistics, Rob and I, which is by far the largest in the group. We work across 5 industry sectors, which is fast-moving consumer goods, or FMCG, retail, resources, and industrial, line haul, and government and defence. We work with some of the world's largest natural resources companies, the world's 2 largest consumer goods companies, and one of the world's largest retailers.
So your brand actually touches a number of other big brands.
Yeah, it sure does.
Right across the entire spectrum, yes.
Yeah, magnificent. So Rob, I'm going to pass over to you and ask you to tell us about, you might have this iconic brand, you work with all of these iconic brands, but I guarantee you, you've got challenges in that recruiting space just like everyone else.
Yes, we certainly do, and but I'm glad to say those challenges are diminishing from, especially where we started in 2011. So we've listed 6 of the challenges there that we thought that really stood out at the time. So when we initiated the direct recruitment model, or the in-house recruitment model for Linfox, and I'll talk a little bit about those. I'll explain the first one, the 0% direct hires. And it's not that we were a 100% transient workforce. Of course, we had permanent blue-collar employees within our business. It's just that our first thought when a vacancy became available wasn't to go out and source an applicant and put them through a robust recruitment process, select the correct applicant for the role and make them permanent. The line of thinking for us was agency casual first.
Right.
And that wasn't really specifically a Linfox methodology. It was a methodology used right across transport and logistics. Karen and I have worked in agencies where the majority of our national accounts or major accounts were transport and logistics businesses,
yeah.
And they spent tens of millions of dollars on agency labour.
Right.
So we needed to become less reliant on a third party, and I'm glad to say today, and as your first slide indicated, that 76% of all blue-collar hires now are direct recruitment and permanent positions within the business. Interestingly enough, another 9 or 10% of those are positions that have been identified as not full-time and a casual basis. So that takes our numbers up to in excess of 85%.
So that's phenomenal, isn't it? Mm. And, I'm sure not just the monetary impact that has for you, but it must also have a great impact on the brand internally as well, to know that you've got your own people actually able to bring in the best of breed.
Absolutely. We've done some work in one of the contracts where we've compared agency labour directly with people that we have recruited, and the efficiency rates, the difference in efficiency rates and motor vehicle incidents are incredible.
Right.
Very surprising.
So you've actually then got two massive bits of information there, or data to take back to the business to go, right decision.
Absolutely. We say that often. Yeah, the next challenge we had, process inconsistency. It really goes without saying, without a corporate approach, process inconsistency was inevitable. You know, we have over 200 sites. Karen just described the scope and size of the business. You know, just everyone had their own way of managing their own recruitment, and we probably had over 200 best practices out in our workplace.
And we had no technology to support that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And to be fair, from a site perspective, we didn't provide that support either. Corporate HR didn't provide the support to them, so there was no other means of recruiting for them.
Yeah, they were doing what they could with the tools they had.
That's right,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Another interesting fact when we joined was that there's 100 plus agency suppliers.
They must have loved your brand.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And again, there was no governance around procuring agency labour, which meant that we also had an inconsistent approach to appoint suppliers to Linfox. We also had issues around performance, rates. We had varying rates, cards, schedules, and also supply issues were common. A centralised approach has improved supplier relationships and performance no end. It's also stopped the leakage. So we've really cut back the amount of suppliers that we have, but we only use the suppliers now that are on the panel. So that gives them a bigger chunk of the pie, even though we're using less agency casuals within the business, but there are fewer suppliers.
So you've actually then been able to do the let's balance this out for you guys. You're going to get more of the pie.
Yeah.
Because there's less of you, even though the pie shrunk.
That's correct. Yeah.
But at the same time, those relationships are much stronger as well. It's a much easier relationship to have with a handful of providers than it is to have with 100. So, you know, the quality is something now that we've got a lot more control over when we do actually have to go externally.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
The issue with with having so many suppliers and so many methodologies in place are the low conversion rates.
Right.
Quite often we hear stories about hiring manager having a vacancy, and then they'd go out to a supplier and ask for six casuals. They would cull the 2 in the first day because they were slow or didn't have the right skill set. At the end of that first week, they'd cull another 2, and they'd keep 2 for another couple of weeks, and then finally select the one good one out of the 6. Obviously that's inefficient and time consuming, especially for the hiring manager.
And for the rest of the team then that's having to support 6 people that are trying to train up.
And training's costly.
Yeah, absolutely. Talent shortage. Without a centralised recruitment function, we didn't know where it was. Everyone was doing their own things. We assumed that we knew, but we didn't really have our hand on exactly where the talent shortage was within the country. And what classifications they fell in. Was it a driver shortage? Was it a warehouse shortage? Was it a white-collar shortage? So, without a recruitment interface, it was pretty difficult to understand. Obviously, incorporating the approval process in the page up make that very easy. We've got it all there in a central repository. We could report on it. And from there, we were able to formulate our sourcing and marketing plans to assist the business in the areas that we actually knew they needed assistance. There was no perception, so we were able to take the perception away.
Which is always nice, isn't it? Because that lovely little anecdote around assumptions and perceptions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always mistakes can be made in that. So.
No, it's good. Connecting with talent on the road. Obviously, mining boom 2 created further challenges in the mining states, and it was a no-brainer that we were going to have some challenges there. Not all the challenges were recruitment challenges. We had, obviously, we were competing with the miners in regards to wages, rosters, accommodation, and also people. So it was very difficult. Quite often, or with suppliers to the miners, we would we would recruit talented people, and the miners would say, oh, they're good people, why don't you come work for us? So we would lead them to some of our clients as well. So, challenges all the time, but they're good. But having a centralised process and being able to communicate with people in those areas, we found that and discovered that there was a large mobile workforce, especially in the mining states. And what I mean by that, not a transient workforce, but a workforce that were away from home quite often.
Right.
And what they were saying to us is, oh, we'd like to apply, but we can't because, I only be up the road for a couple of days. And up the road in Western Australia is 4 days. You drive for 4 days and you're in the same state, so it's incredible. But quite often they go up the road to, say, a mine site at Newman, and then when they got there, they were re-diverted to Port Hedland, and Port Hedland to somewhere else, and then back to Newman. So that 4 days quite often turned into 7 or 8 days.
Yeah, so if you're after trying to get people on quickly, there's 7 days that they haven't got an opportunity to apply, and if
Absolutely.
they have applied,
Yeah.
you may be trying to connect with them,
Yeah.
and you may not be able to do that.
Yeah, reaching them was a real difficulty for us. We were looking for a solution, and obviously, we came to PageUp, and we were able to pilot the Linfox recruitment app. Karen will talk a little bit more about that shortly, but yeah, that's basically how that was born. Interestingly enough, we'll go to a poll shortly, and I'll be interested to see where talent shortage falls into other people's challenges now that the economy is certainly changing a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's a great leeway for us there. Rob, so you're doing my job for me.
Sorry.
No, that's great. I love that. So what we will do, everybody, is we will kick off a poll now, and that'll be up on your screens shortly. And this is a multi-choice. So we know that, you just saw that Rob was very quickly able to roll off 6 challenges, and I think, he did some work to get them down to the 6. So any of these, if you'd like to select those for us. And while we're doing that, we have had a couple of questions come through. Excuse me for a moment. So we might try at least to get through one of those. And that is, were hiring managers doing their own recruiting? You did touch on that a little bit, Rob. Could you give us a little bit more info on that, Karen?
Yeah, absolutely, they were. When we embarked on this exercise and we were looking to automate the process, we spent quite a bit of time out in the field talking to hiring managers, and they were doing the best they could, but everyone had their own processes, everyone had their own ways of doing things, and it was really time consuming. The hiring managers are there to run operations and sometimes really large operations. And they were, particularly for a warehousing role, they were, vetting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of resumes and, printing them out and taking them home and trying to go through and assessing those that would be suitable to shortlist and the likes as well. So, what we did identify when we were going through this process is that they were crying out for something like this.
Get some help.
Yeah, so what you were saying before about the cost of the business with agencies, the cost of the business productivity-wise, hiring managers.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, because it wasn't centralised, it wasn't measured in totality, so it was hidden from the business to a sense, to a degree.
Yeah, so you had no ability to be able to go, how many people are we recruiting?
Yeah.
How long are they staying with you? So
how much training are we putting to them? What were the turnover rates? All those things that we can do today.
Yeah.
And add to that, if we look at Victoria as an example, most of our sites are in the northwest region, and clearly all of them have recruiting needs. And yet the sites, the infrastructure wasn't such that they would actually share applicants either. So, we go through a recruitment exercise and they go through, the process we've just explained. And yet the equally as suitable applicants didn't actually make it to the other sites as well. So, the centralised process, I think, was great for the managers because we're obviously able to fulfil the needs, but at the same time, it's great for the applicants because they're now, they're now getting the best of all opportunities within Linfox in the region that they apply in.
Right, so let's close. Oh, excuse me.
You're right there. Might have been vodka, not water.
Not water. We'll close that poll up and show everyone the results. And let's see, Rob, where does talent shortage? And you're right, it's right up there. So right up there with understanding where they hang out. So, and we'll get to both of those, I suppose. The centralised recruiting, I'm going to talk a bit about but then also that understanding where they're hanging out and how you address that, and you've already touched on that with where we went with the app. So the other one there too about the keeping talent informed is quite an interesting one, and I think that's really important if you've got a lot of people that you are reaching out to. How do you keep them informed? And you were just saying there, Karen, you probably had candidates that were great and would be fantastic for Linfox in the past.
Yeah.
No visibility.
No way that anybody else could be talking to them in the organisation.
Yeah, yeah.
Great, so we'll close that off. And you'll actually see, we're going to head over to to Rob, and he's going to take us through all about how you went about centralising your recruiting.
Yeah, well, like any new initiative, we needed to start somewhere,
yes.
And we decided with the blue collar process, it was about understanding the business's pain points, and this, as we've described in the previous slide, that this was a real issue for us. And the blue collar component of our business is by far our largest workforce. We touched on the hiring managers bleeding time, effort and productivity in those areas, and so it was going to be a quick fix for us. We've always had intentions of branching out into the white collar space. However, it was important to get this component right, build the process, build a solid foundation, gain some credibility within the business, and then to launch off that.
I can see that 76% direct and the reduction of costs that you've been able to put in place probably is going to help you launch into the white collar space. Yeah.
There's some very excited people within the business waiting for us to move on. Yeah. Simplifying the process, again, it needed to be simple from a hiring manager's perspective. However, while still keeping a robust recruitment process. Yeah. Simple to use, but effective and efficient in the manner that it flowed. And obviously PageUp was able to help us do that. It was quick and easy for the hiring managers, and it allows the recruiters to process the applicants in a manner that we would like them to, but also in a manner that we could then start to collect some data around who was applying and where the skill shortages were and all those types of things as well. So
and I think
it's great.
You mentioned earlier about the hiring manager and the ability for them to start the process from like requisitions.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And you're doing that online. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. And the workflows are fantastic. It used to, the onus used to sit with the hiring manager to ensure that it got to the right people and the right approvers. Whereas the workflow process is fantastic because as soon as the thing's instigated, it's going on to the the relevant approving managers. So that's been a great initiative in the business. It's been really well received.
And as we saw with new technology, everyone's got smartphones now. So there's no when the approval process commences and it goes up the chain to the approving managers, there's no excuse not to look on their smartphone and hurry that process along. So that's good.
So that means then that you're actually reducing costs, you're increasing the quality of your hires, and now what I'm hearing is you're actually even decreasing the time to hire.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, from a change management perspective, we didn't change too much about the approval process. Rather, we just made it electronic. We just got a piece of paper and made that our approval to hire form. The same questions that were on that piece of paper are on our approval to hire. So there was, from a business perspective, nothing changed. It just went from your desk to your computer. So it flowed nice and easily.
Yep. Beautiful.
Our next point, and Karen touched a little bit on this in the previous question, was to help the business concentrate on their business. Our site managers, hiring managers out on site are very, very busy people. They run their own supply chain organisation. They've got responsibility for safety. They've got responsibility for people. They've got responsibility for the client, and of course they need to move product around the country. So that while they're doing all this, they haven't got time to recruit.
And it's not really their skill base, is it? If you think about it.
No, that's correct.
Their skill base is around that last part of the recruiting, understanding who's going to fit within my team.
Yes.
But all the rest of it.
Yeah. No, that's right. So the recruitment team conduct and manage the entire process for them. and which just allows the hiring managers to get on with their appropriate skill sets, which is great. And during that process, we've been able to train and develop some of those hiring managers to those skills that you were just touching on there. And they've become appreciative of the method in our madness. You know, they know that there is a science behind what we do, and there is an actual skill around conducting an interview and pulling those relevant pieces of information out of an applicant. So the more that we work with them, the more they understand the process, and the better the relationship between the recruiters and the hiring managers and the sites, and the more appreciative they become.
Fantastic. Raving fans, hiring managers. Great to hear.
They're absolutely fantastic. And of course, they understand the business better than us.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's important for us to get that level of understanding, and helps us create or source the right candidate for them. The next point there is identifying talent, identify and develop a tailored marketing sourcing plan. We're in, obviously from an internal recruitment process, we're embedded in the business. So, we get to see and hear and talk about things that a third-party supplier wouldn't. So we get to understand that the internal intricacies of the business a little bit better than somebody else would. So we got to really identifying where the pain points were. We come up with a recruitment and planning meetings, which allowed us to understand the micro issues in each region, because they were different, because we're such a broad spectrum in regards to geography and the industries that we play in. It changes, the pain points change from region to region, state to state, contract to contract.
Exactly. And the people in those regions would be different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. You've got to be able to adapt to that as well.
Yep.
Great.
Yep. We had, in those meetings, we had our operational staff who was giving us all the feedback, contract managers, drivers, and others at the coalface to just provide that full spectrum of understanding of what the issues were in that particular area. Then we could go out and formulate a marketing sourcing plan around that.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about the fact that your quality of hire has increased, and you also, it is better than if you do compare it to the agency type. And so that's validation of the work that you're doing there. You've become part of the business, haven't you? You're actually working so closely with them that you're able to go, I now understand the culture, the nuances of your business, so they're now more comfortable with the quality of the hire that they're going to receive through you.
And there's more buy-in.
Yeah,
more buy-in to the process.
They're going to then help you when you start to move into the white-collar space.
Yeah.
You've got advocates in the business. Hey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Now, reporting the facts, and again, an extremely important part of the technology that PageUp provides to us, a suite of reporting, or the reporting suite is something that we use quite often. We believe that if we're not measuring, we're not managing. So to understand, again, I've mentioned a couple of times the pain points and where they lay within the business allows us then to set priorities around where we need to focus our time and energy.
Yeah, and just you wouldn't be able to tell them that all of a sudden 76% is direct fill if you weren't actually managing that, being able to record it, and you can truthfully go out and say that. You can truthfully go out and say how much you're saving them.
Absolutely.
The time to fill.
Yeah. So now we've got data around how many direct fills we're bringing into the business. We have some data around the efficiency gains that we bring into the business via this method. We've got some data around the lowering of motor vehicle incidents around these people that we're bringing into the business.
You're making the connection.
So we are starting to get into that area of the business where it's the data is non-challengeable. It's just there. It is how it is.
And that then helps you have those more informed and strategic discussions then with your business, isn't it? Because it's like, wow. Well, that's fantastic. So let's, you know, and I suppose we could talk about that story forever around how you can centralise your recruiting and the impacts that it's had there. But let's also make sure we spend some time talking about the mobile strategy. And so, Karen, I think I might ask you to take us through that.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, as Rob just said, the process was up and running. The first year, the team placed, I think, over 900 hires.
Yeah.
In the second year, it was over 1,100 hires. So we were doing great. But we still had the one pain point, and I think that it's no different to a lot of other supply chain organisations, and that was, you know, we needed to find drivers to keep our trucks on the road, and that was one of the early challenges. I remember when we built the initial process where we were really worried about when we implemented the technology and everybody needed an email address to log in, that we were not going to be able to attract drivers, these people that were on the roads. And I've got to say, we were really happy to be proven wrong.
Made the assumption that drivers wouldn't have an email address.
Yeah, look, it was only our assumption. It was that's what the businesses would be telling us as well. Oh, you know, we can't do this electronically because, you know, the drivers won't have this, you know, the methods to apply. But we were all proven.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we'd always had an app on the radar as part of our longer-term strategy, but we considered it to be more a white-collar initiative and part of, I guess, our phase 2 and a little while off.
Yeah.
And the more we thought about it, the more it made sense to bring the concept forward. So that was kind of where our thinking was around it. I think add to that, with the ever-increasing shift to mobile devices, it makes sense. Drivers are going to be using tablets and, you know, pulling into, you know, truck stops and, you know, those sorts of areas that have got sort of the Wi-Fi and when they're in range and like, because, you know, as Rob pointed out earlier, you know, a trip from Perth to the Pilbara, there's an awful lot of, you know, blank space in amongst all of that they don't actually have access to, you know, to the internet and all of those sorts of things. So, yeah, it makes sense to try and start aiming or targeting those areas where we know they're going to be looking at their phones, or we know that they're going to be using their apps in their downtime and their rest breaks. So that's where it came from. At a meeting with Simon Karras, you know, he asked us what other developments or, you know, what the future held for us from a technology point of view and what we would find of benefit. And we shared our dream with him. We let him know where it was that we wanted to be and what we wanted to do. And he came to visit us a week later and agreed to pilot a program with us. So, you know, we were really, really fortunate to be in that space. The initial stages weren't easy. It took an awful lot of work because we were, you know, we were working with a blank canvas.
Yeah, I was going to say you're pioneers, and you know, it's never easy when you're pioneers.
We weren't app builders, that's for sure.
But we're really happy with how it's turned out. You know, we've still got some development to do, but I think we're really on the right track with it as well. What was really funny was the very, very first day the app landed in the iTunes store was the very first day we got our inquiry. But it was still in testing phase. We hadn't even rolled it out to the team yet. So we had very confused recruiters and a very confused applicant. But the funny thing is he actually got a job with us. So, you know, we can actually say our very first applicant through the app is now an employee of Linfox.
Wow. So, first of all, you've looked at the challenge of the market that you're trying to get to.
Yep.
You've gone out and tested your assumptions, and as you said, gladly got told, these aren't quite right.
Yep.
These are people that do have, that are probably more technically competent than anybody would give them credit for. And then when you've gone to test it, you've actually gone, okay, bang, first day, so you've actually been validated in that very first day.
Yeah. Within first couple of minutes or first couple of hours, which we thought was incredible.
Yeah, so I suppose the learning from that is make sure you communicate with your team next time.
Oh, look,
we have to glide that out.
Yeah, we hope to spend 24 hours just, you know, finishing the final user testing, and yeah, it was. I mean, it's just great though to see just how quickly technology evolves, and you know, I think we've had over 2,500 downloads now, so you know, we know that the things, you know, is being looked at. You know, we've certainly had some feedback that those that have downloaded it have liked it and have told others about it, and you know, we've certainly we've got, you know, we've made it easy for people to download the app through our website as well.
Yeah, so they don't even have to go to the Apple Store to do it. They can go straight from the career site, can't they?
Yeah, they can. Well, they can go straight from the homepage on our website.
Hey, I'm pretty sure that I've seen it on the front page of your actual website.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. Now, we have had a question come through that I think is probably pertinent that we ask now.
Yep.
And is the app specifically a Linfox recruitment app or a company app with a recruitment section? That's a very good question.
Yeah, it is a good question.
Yeah.
It is a Linfox recruitment app. first and foremost. It is literally, if you go onto the, you download it and go onto the front page, it will give you the direction to the jobs by the state that you reside in or where you want to work in. The next phase of this will be to share notifications, although we have actually linked it to our news page on our website as well, but predominantly it is a recruitment app.
Help us build those talent communities. Once we have built in the push notification, we'll be, touching base with everyone who's downloaded the app on a regular basis.
Yeah, because as you said, you had a talent shortage. Now you've got a new 2,500 people that potentially you weren't reaching.
Absolutely,
in the past.
yeah. And we believe it's the only one of its kind at the moment. So yeah, we're pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and we've got 2,500 people that are interested in what we're doing and interested in roles within Linfox. So the more that we can share with them down the track, and the more news that we can share with them down the track, we think it's a great thing. That for us is, I guess, the next phase in our employee engagement piece or our applicant engagement piece.
Yeah, well, as we've talked earlier about, applicants become, the good applicants become employees.
Yeah.
So you're actually, we said that in the starting points, from that first click, you're actually starting that engagement process.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is fantastic. You also have got there that you got your first applicant from the first day in the App Store,
yeah.
And that person now actually is an employee.
Yeah.
Have you had any other feedback around the app from candidates at all?
The ease to use, I think, is probably the most common feedback that we get. I mean, it's not difficult to download. It's not difficult to apply. It's not
difficult to search on a particular job in a particular region. So they're the types of the feedback that we were getting, and it's come a long way from, we used an extremely technical piece of equipment to design the app called a whiteboard. Because we just had no idea of what was going on, and Simon drew up 4 squares on the board and said, how do you want it to look? And we pretty much from there we knew what we wanted on the first page, we knew what we wanted on the second page, we knew what we wanted on the third page, and again we had this end mind that, towards as the app developed in future times, we would have this push notification to be able to communicate with people prior to even them becoming applicants.
Yeah. Well, at the moment you've got 2,500 people that have downloaded.
Yeah.
That doesn't actually mean they've clicked through to be an applicant just yet.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
At least there's 2,500 people out there that are interested in Linfox as an employer.
Yeah.
Enough to have put an app onto their phones, and I look at a lot of people's phones these days and how many apps they've actually got on there.
Yeah.
We are quite disconcerting about which ones we want on there, which are going to take up the space.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic, and it'll be great to see, knowing already that the first app person is actually an employee, so that's worked.
Yeah.
How you go over the next bit of time around that. Now, you said before that this was, when you first started thinking about the app, white collar.
Yeah.
So do you think it'll translate across to the white collar for you as well?
Yeah, I think that'll be the easy second phase.
Yeah.
I think for us, I guess the logic around it now is that we do want to be able to attract people that are out on the road and that are, potentially taking respite and the likes as well. But that's still not taking away from the fact that everybody, back to your statistics earlier, everybody owns a mobile phone. Some people own more than one mobile phone. So I think that'll naturally transition to the white collar workforce for us.
Well, we're expecting better results with the white collar applicants, but again, we'll proved wrong the first time around, and we'll be happy to be proved wrong again as long as people apply and download the app.
Yeah. But I think that comes back to simple, keeping it simple, making it easy to use, and I think that's resulted in the number of downloads that we've got. And people wouldn't be referring other people or recommending other people download it if it wasn't simple and it wasn't easy to use.
Oh, exactly, and that is the main thing, isn't it? That word of mouth, even for people that are out on the road and for days they may not see another soul. You've actually got those people going, the experience for me is good enough for me to actually say to other people, hey guys, you should actually consider working for Linfox, because they make working for them really simple.
Yeah.
So that's got to be representation of, it must be really simple and easy to work for them as well.
We've got very, very high standards as an employer, but we want to make sure that we've got as many people that are interested in working for Linfox actually making us aware of the fact, or letting us know that they're interested in working for Linfox.
Make it simple and easy for them to apply.
Yeah.
And that with a robust recruitment process will bring them through.
And that's generating the results that we're getting now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's what I'm going to say now. The linkage comes back there, doesn't it? It is that, okay, so we've got an easy and simple way for people to actually apply for a job. And then from the hiring perspective, you've made that a simple process as well.
Yeah.
Nice and tight.
Yeah.
So the experience for the applicants from the day they apply it's got to be a good one.
Yeah.
Backing that up by saying now are actually referring there.
We get a lot of good feedback from the applicants in the process.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, so we've had a couple more questions come through. Karen, does the app have an online resume, or do you need to upload your resume through the app?
The great thing about this app is that if you were to log on to the website and you were to apply for a job on the website, it's exactly the same process. So the app links back to literally the information that's on the website. So whatever functionality the website has, the app has.
Oh, fantastic. So you then would have the ability, and we know that by PageUp working closely with a lot of our clients around mobile optimising career sites, and giving people the ability, if you need to upload a resume, they can very easily, if they use things like Dropbox, or they can use pre-fill through
their LinkedIn or Seek.
And such, Seek now as well, So.
And I think we were lucky to have Simon working with us on that pilot, because this is the, I guess, the advancement in the technology that he's been able to bring to the app as well.
We needed a little bit of technical help.
Hopefully we've brought that on by bringing our CTO, the actual mix there for you. Okay, well look, we might quickly take a poll, because there's been a couple of other questions, but while the poll's up we can actually take those. So this poll is a single choice here for you, everybody. So, and what we're going to ask you now is, when is your organisation reviewing your talent attraction strategy? So have you already commenced the journey? And so today is about just getting some additional tips around it. You're going to start it, so today is about helping you maybe look at what your business case may need to have in play, and what are some of the great things that the Linfox team have been putting in play to do. It's okay if it's unknown, and it's also okay if it's not on your current agenda. I'm sure it's just something that you may be interested in looking at. So just while everybody's filling that in, do you think the app has had so many downloads due to your company's culture or due to promotion?
That's an easy one. Yeah, it's a very good question, but it's an easy one. I would say that it is predominantly because of the organisation and the organisation's culture. And I say that because we've only just recently launched the app, and we certainly had significant numbers of downloads before the official launch and the likes as well. So
you said you hadn't even told people internally that the app was going to be out on the store, and you had your first applicant. So that's got to be someone's gone to your brand because of the brand.
Absolutely. Someone who searched Linfox and downloaded it, or has specifically seen it on our webpage. Yeah, because we haven't had any marketing or strategy around launching the app externally. It's been very quiet, and we've been very surprised by the uptake.
But we also put a lot of work into our employer brand, and coming from a base where we had a lot of support from agencies and the like, that was really important to us as well. And we spent a lot of time working within the business to identify what it was like to work for Linfox, and really translated that to our employer brand. And the people that we speak to when they come in, really do agree with how we've launched the brand, and what we say it's like to work for Linfox as an employer. And I think that in itself has assisted in those referrals and assisted in people wanting to go and apply for roles within Linfox. And if the app makes it easier for them to do that, that's fantastic. But
so, and you have, because I'm thinking about, we know that referrals from people that are employees are a great quality source, because they're not going to tell people if it's not a great place to work, and they're not going to tell people that they don't think would fit culturally or have the skills, because they don't want to look bad as well from a referral perspective. But what you've also now enabled is people that aren't even employees yet, who were saying, I'm having such a great applicant experience, go and download an app. So all of a sudden you've increased your referral pool outside of your actual traditional employee base.
Yeah, look, we're excited. We're excited to see where this new piece of technology takes us, and you know, who knows? It moves quite quickly, even from when we started to build the app to when it was completed. There was lots of little bits of technology that had changed throughout that process, and obviously Simon Page was able to keep up with that.
Beautiful. All right, well, let's close the poll off and let's have a bit of a look at when people are actually looking to review. So yeah, and this is quite normal that we have a lot of people on the line there that already commenced the journey, but are keen for any additional tips or anecdotal evidence that can actually help them along the process. Quite a few there that are unknown, so that, as I said, not fine, or it's not on the agenda. So hopefully from today, and we've got a couple of more minutes left to go through some tips for you as well, but you've got some ideas about how you may actually approach that. So
hope we've helped.
Yeah, so let's actually get into those tips then. So we'll just close that poll off. So I think both of you are going to take me through this. We might start with you, Karen.
Yeah, look, I can't emphasise enough the importance of change management in the process. We had a really strong emphasis on this right from the beginning. We engaged really, really heavily with the business, and I think this focus early on really did contribute to the program's overall success.
Yeah, and from a planning perspective, plan with the end goal in mind, whether it's you know, planning a sourcing component, introducing an internal function. If you don't know what the end result is going to be, then it's very difficult to take people on that journey with you. So thorough planning, thorough change management, and obviously we touched on it a little bit earlier about measuring and managing, review and revise steps along the way.
And you know, this for us is, you know, the point that we've come to in this journey. It's certainly not the end point. You know, so you know, we will continue to review, we'll continue to revise, we'll continue to look at, you know, what else we need to do to be able to attract the applicants that are going to best support our business.
And to continue to make your central recruitment function successful, because I'm sure that the business is now turning around going, okay guys, what's next out of you? Because you've been able to reduce costs to the business, so of course they're going to be looking for additional cost savings. And
absolutely. The majority of my meetings now are not about how to bring talent into the business, how do we better use the talent that we've brought into the business, so they're more from an operational sense. So we've really, we are moving to that next phase. So it was initially it was about getting the people because we didn't have them. Now we have the people. How do we best use those people in the business?
And do you find that you now also have talent pools available to you so the guys can proactively
we do. We have the brand's so strong. We continually have people approaching us for a role. So it's not something that we go out and actively participate in. It's at the moment, obviously we did during the mining booms in the mining states. We had people ready to go prior to vacancies becoming available. Now that that's dissipated a little bit, you know, we've paired off on that a little bit.
Okay. So I think we've got a couple more questions coming through. We are getting very close to time though. So what we might, and was one that came in a little earlier, but it would be probably good to know whether, did you actually have a recruiting team to start with, or did you have people that were of a recruiting background within your business before?
We had Rob and Karen.
Yeah, we started from scratch. So you know, when we originally came to develop this, we had nothing. There were no sort of internal processes in place. We had you know, we had literally us and you know, a remit to increase the quality and you know, ensure that we had that internal capability within the business. And so, you know, we started with the process, and we looked at what we need, and we did an awful lot of planning around that, and looked to then determine, you know, what we required as a business. And you know, we took a very structured, staged approach to that, and literally you know, rolled it out on a state-by-state basis, and ensured that we had a stable team, you know, a good quality, experienced, stable team in place. We then introduced that to the managers and ensured that that particular state was operating and functioning well, and we'd move on to the next one.
Yeah, so it wasn't blue collar nationally, it was blue collar in segmented rollout stages. And that was one of the big attractions for me to coming to Linfox. There was no myths. We could create our own myths, we could hire our own people and really get the ball rolling from that sense. And in recruitment, it's very rare that you get that opportunity to build from the ground up.
Oh, exactly. And you've proven that it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But yeah, so you actually, because a lot of people will go centralised models, being a team all sitting together in one state and actually managing, but you actually have recruiters
at the coalface.
Yeah, we considered that as part of the initial process, but you know, back to Rob's point, having them at the coalface and being able to interact directly with the managers and being able to you know, for volume recruitment exercises, actually go out and support the managers on site. It made sense to us.
You get much more of a better understanding being where the work is, rather than on the other side of the country. Yeah.
And I think that's been equally as beneficial to the managers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they've actually, it sounds like, got the ability to be able to build trust.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. There's still, even though it's an internal function, there's still a relationship component there that we need to build with the hiring manager. There's still a sales component to our recruiters to get out there and sell our internal function. Yeah, they're very, very important components to what we do.
And I think another really important point there is that we're a national team. You know, we've got the capability nationally and we've got those local relationships. But that team is able to support any project or any initiative nationally. And, you know, we've on several occasions mobilised other team members to support, you know, particular state team groups where there's been the higher volume of funding.
Wherever the hotspots are.
Yeah, absolutely.
To win a contract somewhere, you need to be able to support that local team.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, look, we have come to just before time, so I always like to finish just a couple of minutes before the end of the hour, just because it's important for people to be able to get into their next meeting, which most likely has been booked straight after today. So this has been fascinating, and I knew that we could keep talking for hours. And yes, if we have missed your question, we apologise, but we will get back to you afterwards. But a great big thank you, Karen and Rob, for sharing your insights and your journey and the story. If anybody has on the line any further questions or need further information, please don't hesitate to reach out to your account executive or your page up contact. We'll be more than happy to work with Karen and Rob if we need to go back to them for an answer, or work with you on an answer. So thank you again.
Thank you, Penny, and thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, and have a great rest of the day, everybody.
Thanks all.